This video is part 10 of an ongoing series looking at W.D. Gann's work. I'll be demonstrating how Gann made his trades using cycles, and I'll show you how to apply the same techniques to the markets you follow. Please subscribe to get notified when new videos come out. In this video, I'll show how once again W.D. Gann's cycle setup works like magic, this time forecasting a 21.8% decline in the Dow Jones Index. You can see other Gann setups in our other parts to this series on our channel and using the Gann Research playlist. But first, I need to talk about some of the background work and research that needs to be done before you can even start looking at Gann's techniques. Gann did a tremendous amount of research, and back then, in the 1900s, it was all paper-based. Now we've created what we call Aspectarian files to save hundreds of hours of time compared to the Ephemeris files Gann used. Let's take a look at what Gann had to do. This is an ephemeris. It's what Gann used. It shows where the planets are on any given day. There are symbols along the top heading row which represent the planets. Now you need to know which symbol is for which planet, and depending on the source there can be more than one symbol for one planet. On row 1 there are other symbols. These are the signs. Unlike the planet symbols, there can be multiple symbols for one sign depending on the source. Now many of these names will be familiar to a lot of people, but remember we're talking about mundane astrology, which is how planets affect everyday things such as business conditions and of course the stock market. There are 12 signs, and as there are 360 degrees in a circle, each sign is 30 degrees. Now you need to know where each sign starts. So if we go back to the Ephemeris file, you can see, for example, Jupiter is in Aquarius and it's at 12 degrees 56 minutes. Now when it gets to 60 minutes it'll go around to 13 degrees. Now you can round up or down. For this work either is fine, but in this case let's round up and call it 13. So Aquarius starts at 300, so that will be 313 degrees. Another example is Neptune. Neptune is in Cancer, and Cancer starts at 90 degrees. Plus 2, that's 92 degrees. So that's where the signs start, and that's where the planets are on the 1st of August 1902. With Gann's work, it's the relationships or angles between the planets, that is, the number of degrees they are apart, is what's important. Or of course, when they are at the same degree. If the planets are at the same degree, it's called a conjunction, or the planets are conjunct. When they're at 90 degrees, they're square. When they're at 180 degrees, they're opposite. And when they're 120 degrees apart, it's called a trine. Now there are of course other angles, but these are considered the most important in Gann's work. Now there's something called an orb. That's when the aspect isn't exact, but the planets are close enough to an important angle to have an effect. Now I've found that about a 6-degree orb works well. It's wide enough so you don't miss anything, but not too wide to give too much information and combinations to look at. Now back to the ephemeris. Now we've got Saturn at 293 degrees and Mercury at 116. So they're 177 degrees apart and opposite. We've got Jupiter at 313 degrees and the Sun at 128. So they're 185 degrees apart, and again they're opposite. And both those examples, they're within that 6-degree orb. We've also got Venus and Mars, both at exactly 97 degrees, so they're conjunct. The planets are moving all the time, of course, and some planets are faster than others. For slower moving planet combinations like Saturn and Jupiter, you may only need to calculate their aspect a few times a month. For faster moving planet combinations, such as for Mercury, Venus and Mars, and especially if it's a combination with the Sun and Moon, you may need to calculate the aspects every few days. So there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done on this page alone before you even get to start to do the research to see if the aspects affect the market you're following. It's no wonder why most people don't research Gann's true work. Now, to save this huge amount of work, we've created what we call our Aspectarian files. All the aspect combinations have been worked out for you. In the first column we've got the date. Now, I won't go into too much detail about the next two columns in this video, but NM stands for new moon, and when there's a new moon, there's an O in this column, and that's quite important in Gann's work. The next column is for retrograde motion, and we have the letter of the planet in this column if it's in retrograde motion, and here we've got Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus all in retrograde. And if we look down, we can see the U drop off, so Uranus goes direct here. Now, looking across the file, we can see Venus and Neptune coming out of a conjunction, Venus and Mars conjunct, Jupiter Sun opposite, Jupiter Pluto in a trine, Saturn Mercury opposite, and if I scroll across to the right, we've got Uranus Pluto opposite, Neptune and Mars coming out of conjunction, and on the far right we've got all the moon combinations. And as the moon is fast moving, you can see the colours and important aspects changing every few days. You can use these files in a few ways. Either look through the Aspectarian files to see important planet combinations, then look to your chart to see if any important highs or lows occurred, or find the important highs and lows, or indeed large price moves on your charts, because it's not always the high or low where the aspects occur, and then look back to the Aspectarian to see if any important aspects happened around that time. Gann would find important combinations for the different markets or individual instruments he followed, and then look to see when these aspects were going to occur again. Because the planet aspects are one thing that can be predicted with certainty, Gann was looking for and finding the link between price movements and planet aspects. We have produced 130 years of Aspectarian data in multiple files. Older data is broken up into 30-year files and newer data in 10-year. Of course, not everyone will want to go back to 1900, and of course not all investment data goes back that far. The Aspectarian files can be viewed online or downloaded into a secure viewer, and they're compatible with PC, Mac, iOS and Android devices. More information can be found on our website and online shop. Links are in the description. Now back to the setup. If we take a look at the Geo-Aspectarian for the 24th of September 1932, we've got Venus-Uranus coming into a trine. We've got Jupiter-Neptune conjunct, Saturn-Uranus square, Saturn-Mars opposite, Saturn-Mercury in a trine, Saturn-Sun trine, and Saturn-Pluto opposite. If I scroll to the right, we've got Uranus-Pluto squared, Mercury-Sun conjunct. Now, looking at a schematic of those aspects, The key is there are actually two conjunctions involving two separate trines. So we've got Pluto-Moon conjunct with the trine to Venus, and we've got Sun-Mercury conjunct, which is in the trine, and Saturn is square to both Mars and Pluto. If we look at the Geo-Aspectarian for the low on the 7th of October 1932, we have Jupiter-Neptune conjunct, Saturn-Pluto opposite. If I scroll to the right, we have Uranus-Mercury opposite, Uranus-Pluto square, Mercury-Sun conjunct, just coming out of a conjunction. We've got Mercury-Pluto square, Jupiter-Moon trine, Uranus-Moon square, Neptune-Moon trine, Mercury-Moon square, and the Sun and Moon square. So if we take a look at a schematic of that, we see on the 7th of October 1932, the key is there was a grand cross and a conjunction involving a trine which ended the pattern. So we've got Jupiter-Neptune conjunct, trine Saturn and Moon, and it's actually a part of the grand cross, so it is square Uranus and square Mercury-Sun conjunct. This video is part of a multi-part series, so please subscribe for future updates, including Elliott wave analysis. There are more articles covering, for example, the sunspot cycle on our website at elliottwaveasx.com, and more content is being added all the time. Thanks for watching. Links are in the description.